The shadow. My younger brother Ben and I used to be inseparable. Growing up, he was my shadow, always following me around, looking up to me like I was some kind of hero. There was only a year between us, but Ben always seemed younger, softer. He just started his freshman year of high school, and everyone loved to remind me how he was the good kid, the quiet, polite one. "Why can't you be more like Ben?" my parents would say. Ben was the shy type who never really made friends easily, but he was different with me. Around me, he was a ball of energy, always talking and laughing. Lately, though, something had changed. I hardly recognized my brother anymore. At first, I thought maybe he was just mad at me for spending too much time with my new friends, ditching our usual after-school hangouts. I tried to make it up to him, but every time I offered to do something, he'd just lock himself in his room. I'd hear him mumbling to himself behind the door, low and frantic. I tried to convince myself it was just a phase, but a gnawing feeling settled in my gut. Something was wrong. Over the next few weeks, Ben's behavior went from distant to downright strange. He started breaking things around the house, lamps, vases, anything fragile. He wasn't clumsy. It was like he was doing it on purpose, but when I asked him why, he'd just shrug, his eyes distant and cold. My parents were baffled. They didn't know how to handle this sudden shift in their good son. "Ben," I asked one evening, cornering him in the hallway, "what's going on with you?" He looked past me, almost through me, like he was seeing something far away.
"I don't want to talk about it,"
he muttered before slipping back into his room and shutting the door with a click that felt like a punch in the gut. That night, I heard the murmur of his voice again, this time louder, angrier. "Who are you talking to?" I shouted from my room. He went silent. I could feel the tension in the air, thick like smoke. Then came the call from the school. Ben had been suspended for trashing the chemistry lab, shattering beakers, smashing test tubes. No one witnessed the event, but the teachers said he must have gone berserk, like something had snapped inside him. My parents were furious, but they were also scared. They paid for the damages, begged the principal not to expel him, but nothing seemed to get through to Ben. He was like a ghost of himself. Determined to get to the bottom of whatever was happening to my brother, I decided to spy on him. Every time he left his room, usually only to go to the bathroom, I'd sneak in and look around. Everything seemed normal, except for one weird detail, a growing collection of objects that emitted light, flashlights, glow sticks, LED keychains. I noticed he always had one of these with him, even during the day. I started following him more closely. I noticed he moved quickly from one light source to another, like he was afraid of the shadows. One day, I saw him standing in the backyard, arguing with himself. Or at least that's what I thought at first. But then I realized he was arguing with his shadow. I watched him from the window, my heart pounding. "Ben," I whispered under my breath. "What the hell is going on with you?" When I finally confronted him, he wouldn't even look at me. "I know you've been talking to it," I stammered. "I saw you." He glanced at his shadow and then at me, his face pale.
"You wouldn't understand,"
he said quietly, retreating back into his room, his eyes filled with a fear I'd never seen before. I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew he needed help, but how could I fight something that might not even be real? I started researching everything I could about shadows, possession, and paranormal phenomena, trying to find some kind of explanation. Was Ben losing his mind? Or was there something darker at play? Finally, I devised a plan. I needed to get Ben alone without his shadow. I taped up all the windows in my room and rigged the door to block any light. That evening, I called out to him. "Hey Ben, can you help me move this dresser? It's really heavy." He hesitated, but eventually he came in, clutching a glowing light stick. As soon as he stepped inside, I slammed the door shut and snatched the light stick out of his hand. I quickly switched it off and threw it across the room. His eyes widened in terror and he scrambled to retrieve it. "Ben," I shouted, racing to the light switch. "I know something's going on with your shadow." He spun around, fear etched across his face.
"No, stop."
He screamed, but it was too late. I flicked the switch. Darkness filled the room. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ben's face twisted with panic.
You don't understand.
He whispered, his voice trembling.
My shadow was keeping it trapped, but now it's free.
Thank you for listening to this terrifying twist tale. Please support this channel by liking and subscribing.